Hello everyone, how are you? I hope you're all doing well. Today we are going to learn about the checking opacity vulnerabilities based on versions using CVE API. Let's get started. Before we have learned about the banner grabbing via HTTP or via socket, after we know services in your user target, and then we have to check maybe any vulnerabilities or not in your user targeting. Okay, I will give you imagination about this process. Before we have learned about the banner grabbing, and right now we are going to learn about the CVE. CVE is common vulnerabilities and exposures. Banner grabbing the function to know your version services on your targeting. After you get information about the services of your targeting, and then you compare with the CVE. Maybe you get the version server of your user, for example opacity version 210, and then you have to check these services to database, and for this case database in CVE, common vulnerabilities and exposures. If you check in here, and then from CVE says, oh, this server or this services any vulnerabilities. After you know if there is vulnerabilities in these services, and then next step, you use this information to take more. And right now I will show you about the how to write CVE correctly. You can see on this board there are 6 steps to make this code. Step number 1, to import module request. Step number 1. And step number 2, to determine version of your targeting server HTTP opacity. Okay, this is the version of your targeting server HTTP opacity. Number 3, the step is build URL API CVE. Step number 3, build URL API CVE. Step number 4, sending request to API. Step number 4. Step number 5, converting response to JSON. Step number 5. And the last step, to check and display the results. This is step number 6. Okay, we start with number 1 step, import module request. Import request. This is very important for you if you want to starting before writing code. Maybe you have to import module, depend on your needs. If you want to create this, create CVE, you start with writing import request. Before we have learned about the banner grabbing, depend on your need. If you want to import socket, so you can write import sockets. If you want to import banner grabbing for HTTP, you can write import request, same like this. Import request to send request HTTP to API CVE. The function to sending request HTTP to API CVE. API is application programming interface, and CVE is common vulnerabilities and exposures. I will give you a little information about this API. The function to connecting between application. If you imagine there are two applications, and API likes bridge to connecting between two applications, and position API in here. And for this case, this is API, and in here our coding, and then we need this import module to get database in CVE position in here. And import request, it means sending request HTTP to API CVE. Next, step number 2, to determine version of your targeting server HTTP API. After you know the version you're targeting API, for example in here, this version like this, and then you copy paste from banner grabbing. After you have data information from your user targeting before through banner grabbing, and then you copy and paste in here version your server HTTP API targeting. you build in here. And what the function of this version? The function to look for or to check in CVE any vulnerabilities or there is no vulnerabilities. You send this version into CVE and CVE will check any vulnerabilities or not this version. Step number 3, to build URL API CVE. CVE underscore API underscore URL and equal of this URL API and this is the version of your targeting server HTTP Apache. What the function this URL starting from here, starting until here, the function to take information about this version on this CVE. Okay, I will repeat again. What the function of this URL? This URL has function to take information vulnerabilities in CVE for this version. If you see before, the version is 2.4.41. Step number 4, to send request to API. Response equal request dot get parentheses CVE underscore API underscore URL. The function of this request dot get parentheses to send request HTTP to URL API which we have created, and this is data equal response dot JSON parentheses the function to get back data from CVE in JSON format. Why we choose JSON format? Because JSON is lighter than XML. If you know, XML has many text, but for JSON has a little text, and I think many people use this JSON for this process, and JSON is more recommended than XML format. Step number 5, converting response to JSON. Okay. And step number 6, to checking and displaying your results. If data.get total results 0 greater than 0, print this and this is the version opacity. If there is no information about the vulnerabilities, and then the process will display this alert. Okay, I will repeat again. If any vulnerabilities in this version opacity, so we will get total vulnerabilities in your targeting. If there is a vulnerabilities, but if there is no vulnerabilities, so we will get information this. I think enough for this explanation about the checking opacity vulnerabilities based on versioning using CVE API. If you have any question about this, you can comment on below this video. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share this video to your friends. See you next time and goodbye.